And now for part 2 of making the Lego. If you ever have problems seeing, feel free to color. Now don't go nuts on the coloring, but once in a while it can help. I'm just going to go boring and pick that, and I will double click and just get it over with. Okay? That'll help me tell the front from the back. So I like to spin this around, and we're going to do the same thing like we did before. I want to click here, going to create sketch so I can draw on that face, and now I want to do some more stuff. So I can use this command that says offset. Because I drew a simple rectangle the first time, I can offset it and just kind of bring this in. Now I can go, whoa, I went too far. Escape. So now I'm going to go to 3D model, gonna go extrude, and I'm going to be really careful. I'm going to pick on this middle part, not that, just this one. Okay. There's two ways to do this. You can you can drag the arrow, but if I drag the arrow out, I'm just making more. Now notice what happens when I push it in. See how it turns red? I can keep pushing it in, until about there. That's one way. The other way is to go on this little guy, and it's in direction 1. I want to click direction 2, and that'll also flip it. Either way it's going to be red. So if it's red, well, kind of red, then you know that it's cutting in as opposed to being gray and pulling out. So it's cutting in. That'll work for me. And I want to click OK. So now I click OK. It's kind of hard to tell what just happened, but once again, I like color, and I'm going to click on this and change the color to, oh, what the heck, we go green. And there we go. So those are the two basic parts of a Lego. It's got a hole and it's got these knobs on top. Now I want you to try something else. Because we're about to make a keychain, and I'm sure you're going to want to do some cool things with it, here's some extra commands. Under the 3D model, you're not drawing anything, you're just looking at all these different little options, and I'm looking for something called fillet. It's not there, but if I click on the edge, see how these two options come up? Create fillet. I want to use this one. And if you look closely, it's going to curve stuff for you. Now, because I already made my shape 2 inches and 3 inches, this 0.125 is going to work for now. That's 1/8 of an inch, if you remember what that looks like from your ruler. So I can click as many edges as I want, and it'll do them all. And you might want to do them all at the same time. That way, they will all be the same size. And you'll know that it's all because it'll say 4 selected. So it's reading that you picked 4 edges. So I'm going to click OK for now. And now you get to see how this changes and makes those curves on the corners, which is pretty fun. Some Legos already look like this. Some of them are more square. But if you change your mind, you can still go back and do some more. And you can get all of these edges. 2, 3. And rotate, 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 rotate. And that one. It says 8 because it remembers that it did these 4 also, because they're all the same size. Okay. So that's one way to get those curves. Let's say you don't want curves, you kind of want things beveled. So let's try that beveling over here. Just to be on the safe side, I'm going to go on the inside because this is already curved and sometimes Inventor doesn't like to overcomplicate. So we'll try here. Let's see if it'll do this. Chamfer. That just means instead of making it curved, it just kind of cuts off the corner a bit. And let's see if it'll work. Ah, not so much. See how this shows up? That's an error. That's your little yellow flag that it not work. So I'm not going to bother. But let's say you don't notice this and you click on it anyway and you try to say okay. Nothing happened. Wait for it. Wait for it. Ah. Okay. Don't ignore these. Actually try to read them. They mean something. So, fail. It could not do it. Could not build this chamfer. And specifically, the distance is too large, too big. And it actually gives you a helpful hint. Try it with the smaller distance. Maybe that'll work. So, we'll just cancel. Okay? Let's try their advice. So I'm going to go on the edge. Click that. Let's see if... Let me go crazy. I'm going to put a 0 just to see if it'll work. See how that yellow triangle went away? And now you can kind of see that it's trying to do something. And if you can't tell, just zoom in. Zoom in, zoom in. We are going to zoom in. And I'm just going to click it once for now. Okay. If you keep zooming in, we're going to zoom in. Now this arrow shows up for me because I have that touchpad, but you guys have the mouse with the center wheel, which will be a whole lot easier for you. You can kind of tell something happened. Just to kind of help it show up, I could color it right there, but you can kind of tell that darker space that's gray is that chamfer. Let me go home. Let me flip it. And you can barely see it, but this has the chamfer. This does not. So you can click on these edges, keep playing with these fillets to make it curved, or a chamfer just to chop it off. And pay attention to any warnings they give you, and you'll know what you did because it always makes a record of everything you did. So once again, I use the XY plane. I made that extrusion. Those for the nubs. This one to make the cut. It remembers the fillets I made, and the fillets I made on the edges, and then the last thing I did is that chamfer. So pay attention to those, and make sure you don't have any random sketches that you should not have created. Okay? Alright. So that'll get you the Lego. In the next video, we're going to try to make, just remind you how to make a blueprint of Legos.